Alright guys, so take off my glasses so that it's not glaring. So I'm going to talk about version control. So there are two version controls that you can use, SVN or Git. Okay, so Git's gaining a lot of momentum. I still like SVN, but if you know one, you can use the other. It's pretty easy. Okay, if you're using Windows, you can download SVN Turtoise. We're gonna have a link, and then that will make it easier. Okay, so let's talk about like what SVN does. So, version control basically keeps track of each change that you make in the code. Okay, so let's say I'm working on Boomya and I added a new feature. I would commit my code to a central repository where it contains all the information about the codes, and it keeps track of each version or each change made by each developer working on the code. So what's the benefit? Let's say I got 10 developers working on Boomya, right? And if I don't use version control, I don't know who made what change, what features were added when, and by whom. And if certain things break, let's say, I totally like blew up, made a mistake and I deleted a bunch of files, we're screwed, right? But if you're using version control, no, you're not screwed because you can say, hey, I kept track of every single change that was made in the code, and I'm just going to simply restore my codes back to how it looked yesterday, which was, let's say, version 235. So each change that you make goes from 235 to 236, 237, and then you can see who made what change, what feature was added. You can also blame, and that's what it's called. You can look at the file and see, hey, okay, these 5 lines were written by John, the next 10 lines were written by Mark, and you can keep track of all the changes made in each file for the codes. It's really awesome. It's one of the things that distinguishes an amateur programmer from an enterprise level programmer. Every enterprise level programmer knows how to use version control. Now here's another thing. Let's say, okay, I got 10 developers working on the codes, you're making all these changes. You're testing on your local computer, but you don't just launch it on the production server. No, you don't. What you do is you set up another server called staging, and you can set staging server to run on certain port, or it could be a different domain like staging.boomya.com or whatever. And you can push, commit, or update the latest server with the staging server with the latest code, and then you can test it. So let's say your staging server runs on version 300, it's the latest one. You test it, make sure everything is working. You found some bugs, you fixed it. Now the version goes up to 301, 302. 302 is working really well. And then you update the production server with code 302. So on the next video, I'm going to show you how all of this is done. You can also use SVN Turtoise. Setting up SVN or setting up Git is a little bit harder. You have to do things on the command prompt, but you can still learn it. Now, if you're working in Village 88, ask one of us to give you access to our SVN where we put all of our codes, and you can do all these things using SVN Turtoise. If you're using Windows, if you're using Mac, you have to go to the command prompt, and it takes a little bit of time, but it's not that hard to learn. Okay, so I'll show you some examples, and I'll also cover about SVN Notify, which is an email that you can it's a Perl script that you install into the server, and every time someone makes a change or commits something to the repository, you can set it up so that different people get notified. And I'll also show you how that works. Okay,